of the federal budget. The Senate has approved a package that would leave income taxes alone and raise gasoline taxes. It must be melded with a House plan that does just the opposite, hiking taxes in the upper brackets and leaving the gasoline tax as it is. Both plans would increase taxes on alcohol and cigarettes. President Bush is expected to sign a measure keeping the government in business through next Wednesday while the conferees finish their work. The lawmakers will wrap up work on the budget less than 2 weeks before next month's elections, and some voters are so angry they're threatening to throw out all incumbents, Democrats and Republicans. ABC's political director Hal Bruno says the negative atmosphere has crept into many campaigns. Hal's with us live in Washington. Hal, I guess the commercials, the campaigns have gotten pretty nasty, haven't they?
Judd, this campaign has been like an open sewer, and we expected it to be that way, but it exceeded all our expectations, and it's going to get worse now as they come out of this budget fight. The Republicans are now on the defensive, no matter what kind of a package they come up with, as defending themselves from charges of being the party of the rich. And the Democrats are going to try to exploit that and sell the line that they are the party that defends the middle class and the poor. And we're already seeing that theme in the campaign within the past week. Up until this week, we were sort of figuring the Republicans might lose 5 to 7 seats in the House and maybe pick up a seat in the Senate, which is pretty good in a midterm election. Now, if everything works the way the Democrats want, they could lose 15 to 20 if the public buys this in the House, and they might lose a couple Senate seats. It really all depends upon whose negative ads are most effective and who the public accepts.
You've got a couple of examples of commercials to show us, right?
Yeah, take a look.
Amazing. After 6 years as governor, Ed Dupree says he's going to change and is running against his own record. Only a professional politician can look you in the eye and tell you he's going to reform his failed administration. Isn't it a little late?
A 10-cent gas tax. We'll pay more at the pump, cost Michigan jobs. Business as usual. That's the kind of government the liberal Democrat career politicians give us. They're making a career in this building. But it's your building and your money. Let's say no to the career politicians.
Well, that gives you a fair sample. It's very typical of what's been going on in this campaign. And as I say, with this budget issue, it's going to get even worse. They're going to be going back and forth at each other as who was responsible for this mess in Washington.
Thanks, Hal. Hal Bruno in Washington. From negative campaigning to negative weather, severe storms and even a few tornadoes bashed the East Coast yesterday afternoon. The Baltimore-Washington region was hit especially hard. Rooftops were blown away, trees and power lines were knocked down, and at least 50 people suffered minor injuries. The storm is blamed for killing one man outside Richmond, Virginia. There's more diplomatic maneuvering over the Mideast crisis today. Top Soviet advisor Yevgeny Primakov meets with President Bush at the White House this morning. Primakov recently visited Iraq. He's assured State Department officials that the Soviet Union would support even stronger sanctions against Iraq. A sign today that those sanctions are working. Starting next Tuesday, Iraq will ration gasoline and motor oil in order to avoid running out of refining chemicals that are used to make those products. The Postal Service begins issuing this year's Christmas stamp today. The contemporary stamp, revealed most appropriately in Evergreen, Colorado, shows a brightly decorated cut paper tree. There's also a traditional stamp featuring a painting of the Madonna and Child. That's by the 15th century artist Antonella da Messina. Of course, every day is a holiday with Spencer Christian.
And I'm taking a holiday now, Judd. I'm in High Point, North Carolina at the International Home Furnishings Market inside one of the many showrooms down here right now. This is the largest wholesale home furnishings market in the world. More than 1,600 home furniture exhibitors are here using 6 million square feet of showroom space in 150 separate buildings here in High Point and in Thomasville. So this is a major, major display place for home furnishings. Come on down if you have a chance. I'm going to tell you about today's weather. It's going to be a mostly sunny day in the eastern half of the nation. That big cold front that swept through yesterday and brought severe storms has moved offshore, so it's clearing behind that front, but it's very cool and very windy. Out west, there's yet another storm developing over the central Rockies, dumping snowfall over the higher elevations, rainfall down in the valleys. It's clear and nice up in the northwestern corner of the country, and that general pattern will continue through the weekend with that storm out west becoming a little bit more fierce. I'll tell you more about that in the next half hour. Right, that's a look at listen to the national weather. Here's a look at the weather where you are.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Tony Petrarca. Storm system moving off the coastline, but the wind and cool temperatures with us. For today, a mixture of clouds, some occasional sunshine, windy and cool only near 60, and for tonight, windy and cold, low temperatures in the 30s.
This weather report was brought to you by Folgers Coffee. Coming up in just a moment, a championship season for some young New Mexicans. And Good Morning America continues.
It is now 22 minutes before 8. As he's traveled across the country, Steve Fox has introduced us to many Americans in pursuit of dreams. This morning, Steve takes us out west, following the trail of one such group of dreamers.
Southwestern New Mexico, the desert, vast, empty, overwhelming. The early settlers who built a town near here in the last century may have considered this place spiritual. They named the town Animas, which is a Spanish word meaning spirit. Today, Animas is home to about 150 souls, a handful of homes and trailers, a church, a bar, a post office, donut shop, and hamburger joint, and a high school whose 180 students are drawn from all over a huge school district. Some kids commute 100 miles round trip every school day. And this is the Animas High football field, a patch of green in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere. A field of dreams, if you will, because it is here that against all odds and common sense, a bunch of boys and their coach play football like heroes. They're not real big, and they're not real strong, and they're not very well funded, but they haven't lost a football game since 1984.
This is the big show. Yeah, this is what's happening on Friday night.
I believe there's just an awful lot of pride in the school. It's amazing what it's done for everyone.
You know, we know exactly what we have to do, and Friday night we do it.
You set your goals. Everybody, it's easy to set goals, and you have to follow through, right? You have to have the quality of determination.
Billy Henson came to Animas in 1981. He teaches English, in this case to juniors. He is also the football coach. His players don't have an abundance of natural talent. Only 5 have gone on to play in college, and none of this year's seniors has college football potential.
We're going to teach responsibility and commitment, things that have to be in any successful organization or firm, no matter what or whatever they do after they graduate.
We don't just put it all together Friday night. We put it together during practice. We practice like we play, and if Coach sees we're not executing in practice, I mean, we'll just stay 2-3 more hours longer, and we'll get it done.
Do you feel pressure to keep this streak going?
Yeah, I think about it a lot. I lose lots of sleep over it. I think about it a lot.
The day of a home game, the Animas Panthers' fortunes dominate most conversations at Billy Dunnigan's donut shop. Over at the gym, the grade school kids have joined their older brothers and sisters at the pep rally.
You're going to get a chance to really make a tackle tonight. You're going to get that opportunity. Everybody is going to get that opportunity.
Just before the start of every game, Coach Henson gathers his players in the school library for a pregame ritual.
We go through a period of what I call visualization and making that perfect tackle, making something good happen. We try not to think about anything unless it's positive toward winning the football game.
We're not especially big, we're not especially strong or fast. It's something big in the community. We go out here and we fulfill our dreams.
You're not going to be any more alive than you are right now. You're fixing to go out here and play this high school game. It's not just another high school game. These are going to be great memories for you. It doesn't get a whole lot better. I think I would give anything to change places with them and experiencing what they're experiencing right now. It's got to be the greatest feeling in the world, and I think it's got to be a great feeling for them.
Looks like another win for this impossibly successful team playing on their field of dreams in the middle of the desert. A team that wins on fundamentals and desire, and most of all, heart. From the boys from the town named for Spirit, a lesson about heroes for all of us.
If the Panthers win tonight, it's going to be their 69th consecutive win. That is the longest current winning streak in American high school football. The all-time streak is 72 straight wins by the Hudson, Michigan Tigers from 1968 through 75. So Animas is moving in on the all-time record. 43 minutes after the hour, they say an army marches on its stomach. We'll find out what's fueling our troops when Good Morning America continues. It's now 1/4 of. Whoever figures it out is probably going to win the Nobel Prize for chemistry, if not for peace. The Army is out scouting for chocolate that melts in the mouth, not in the sand. That is to say, chocolate bars that can survive the 100+ degree heat of Saudi Arabia. And if you've got the answer to that one, you should contact Jerry Darsh. He is Chief of Food Technology Division of Army's Natick Research Development and Engineering Center in Massachusetts, joining us this morning to show us what the troops eat, right?
Thank you very much.
And what you have here is what the troops get right now, right?
That's correct, Charlie. This is the new individual combat ration called the Meal Ready to Eat that is currently being consumed in Operation Desert Shield.
So you would get a packet like this.
That's correct.
And it would include crackers, and these are, what, pork with rice?
Right, it would be an entree, a fruit, for example. Instead of using a rigid can, we actually use a flexible pouch, which has a lot more utility. It's easy to carry by the soldiers. It's also a fairly lightweight meal.
Now, that's what's there now.
Absolutely correct.
But there are new things on the way, right?
Absolutely correct again. We have just recently developed a successful program to come up with a bread product like this that is shelf stable for 3 years at 80 degrees Fahrenheit, as all the components in our ration systems are.
What is it at 100 degrees?
Approximately 6 months.
So what you want is food that is as tasty as you can get it, that will last a long time, and that it's basically stable, right?
Exactly. It has to be nutritious, and more importantly, the soldier has to find it very acceptable so he'll consume it, or she'll consume it. Now, that bread is about 2 years old that you just tried, as a matter of fact.
We're aging nicely.
Yeah, so we worked very closely.
1988 was a good year for bread.
It certainly was.
Now, this is a heater, which I gather, which allows you to heat the individual meal. This is a little, you add water to this,
yes,
and it becomes a little stove, right?
Yes, basically what we call this is a flameless ration heater. Again, we successfully completed research and development. This is being sent to Operation Desert Shield. It contains a chemical pad. You add about 1 ounce of water. You add your pouch of entree,
right,
and in about 12 minutes it'll raise the temperature of that entree 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
And they haven't had that in the past, right?
This one was activated about 10 minutes ago, and if you feel that, it's actually quite warm.
It's hot. Okay. This is the chocolate that'll last at 100 degrees?
This chocolate is a sample that we've received from industry. It will last, be stable at 140 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, the sample you just ate came out of 140 degrees before we arrived here.
It's good. It tastes like chocolate.
And, chocolate is an item that we've asked to supply to our soldiers. It's a good morale enhancer, and we think we'll be able to do it.
Now, this is a burrito that has been heated in one of these kinds of things?
Absolutely. The items that you see here are still under research and development. We've got a ways to go. But our soldiers have indicated that they like fast foods like hamburgers and hot dogs, Mexican, Chinese food, and Italian food. These are examples of some of the items that we have. We have about 12 different items, and they still have to be tested. Exactly.
Pound cakes here.
New variety of pound cakes.
The burrito's delicious. And now these are all individual meals.
Correct.
This is a group.
Right. What we call this is a tray ration. This is also being served to our men and women in uniform in Saudi Arabia. It's basically a pre-prepared meal that just has to be heated and served for consolidated field feeding.
And this is a cake?
This is a new cake that we're proposing. We already have 10 different breakfasts and 10 different lunch dinners over there, but this is a new cake we think will be quite acceptable.
Pretty good. And this, again, would be a group meal. This is a what?
This is a barbecue boneless pork rib.
This is a breakfast sausage?
A breakfast sausage with a shelf-stable biscuit. Again, all of these items are shelf-stable for 3 years at 80 degrees Fahrenheit.
Which of these should I try?
Either one. They're both highly acceptable.
Highly acceptable?
They're delicious.
They're good. It's pretty good.
Thank you very much. The Quartermaster School, of course, will ultimately decide which of these items enter the system for the Army.
Send them all.
Outstanding, and thank you very much.
Send them right on. All right, Jerry, thanks very much. It's really pretty good food. 11 minutes before the hour. I'm talking with my mouth full now. Mary Wilson's Motown Memories when Good Morning America continues.
Smiles have all turned to tears, but tears won't wash away the fear that you never ever.
This is one of the groups that was my favorite group. The original Supreme Mary Wilson has continued, of course, her solo career since the group broke up in 1977. 7 years after the lead singer Diana Ross left to pursue her solo career, now Mary Wilson has co-written a book about these times. It's a revealing follow-up to her bestseller Dreamgirls. It is called Supreme Faith. There we go, another word in there. Someday we'll be together. And it's nice to have you here with us. Nice to see you again. You know, I remember after Diana left the group, you reformed it, and I mean, you really, you know, shouldered all that responsibility at that time and really struggled to make it work. And you had some big hits.
Yes.
You know, there for a while. And then it all kind of fell apart. You're looking back on it now. Why did that happen?
Well, you know, it's amazing. At the time, I kept the group together because I wanted it to stay together, and it wasn't a struggle in the beginning because I'm figuring, well, I love to do this. I love to sing, so it's going to work. And we got best singers to join us, and I thought it was fine. We had Stone Love, Up the Ladder to the Roof.
That's right.
Nathan Jones,
those
Floyd
were all
Joy.
after that
all
time,
those were huge hits, you know. And I just thought it would just go on forever in my young mind, you know. But it just seemed like it stopped, and it didn't. It was more of a gradual stop. And the one thing I think I brought out in the book was that we did not have the company sort of behind us the way they had been in the 60s.
It's not just going out there on the stage and singing and doing your best job. There's that whole business thing behind it, right?
You. And sometimes that machinery switches gears, you know. It has other things that are happening.
Place their importance on something else. And
that's what happened, you know. And it's just amazing. People say, well, why? You know, you guys were so good. It's not really one answer to why. And that's when I wrote the book, I'm finding out, my God, all these things happened. But at the time, I was too busy doing it to really think about it.
Is that a good process, or is that a painful process, going back through examining why things happen? Why did that upset me so much at the time?
Yes, it was very painful going back, because I have this wonderful knack of, while I'm doing something, I'm not in pain. Someone says, my God, Mary, you must have been so hurt at the time. Well, you know, I was having fun. I'd do my gig, I'd go out and party.
That's probably a good thing, a good, you know, way to be.
I'd go out and I'd have fun, and I'd go back and I'd do whatever I had to do for the group.
You also write, lest we think this is all about work and no play, you also write in the book, and in the last book too, about, well, about several different romances that you had, specifically Tom Jones and Steve McQueen. Now, where did you meet Steve McQueen?
It was a Hollywood party. It was in the earliest. This book takes place, by the way, in the 70s, the second book. And
he's a very quiet guy. He was a very quiet little romance.
Very quiet, not really an introvert, but he didn't like to be around people a lot. And it was at a Hollywood party.
But you're an extrovert.
You know, people say that, but I'm not really. There's one side of me that really is an extrovert, but really I'm quite shy. And
yeah, we believe that.
At this Hollywood party, I just sort of saw Steve there, and he saw me, and it was from across the room. And, you know, sparks went off. But the relationship was really a very quiet one. We'd speak on the phone for hours. We talk about the weather. We talk about singing. And we spend hours on the beach,
Did he ever
like
sing
that.
with you?
No, but one thing, no, he didn't sing with me. He listened.
And did Flip Wilson ask you to marry him?
Yes, Flip did.
Yeah?
And I really considered marrying Flip because I really, really, really liked Flip. It's just that I had this image of being in love. You know, it's like this shining night comes and sweeps me off my feet. Well, he swept me off all right, but I decided not to, and when I didn't, it broke up the relationship because he really wanted to marry, and that was a time when black people wanted to marry each other. You know, it was a time of let's do this right thing, and he was very sad because I wouldn't.
See all the little juicy tidbits you get in this book. What's it called again? Supreme Faith.
Supreme Faith. Someday we'll be together.
Good to see you, Mary.
Good to see you.
Good luck.
And take care of those teenagers. Your daughter is 10.
Yeah, mine are littler. Hers are teenagers. 11,
12, and 15.
She's been giving me an earful about what I'm in store for. Mary, good to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Good Morning America continues right after this from Visa.
Great.
Just time to say.
Oh, we'll be back. Second hour coming up.
Good Morning America, I'm Joan London.
And I'm Charles Gibson. It's Friday, October 19th. Ahead this morning, what keeps Paul McCartney and Wings going strong? Linda McCartney has the answer.
And Joel Siegel looks over Quigley Down Under, Tom Selleck's new film about good guys and bad guys in Australia. Spencer.
Well, Joan, there's a snowstorm brewing in the west that could leave as much as 1 foot of snow in the mountains of Utah and Colorado.
And good morning, everyone. Spencer is going to be explaining why he's standing amidst all that
Furniture.
Furniture.
Yes.
Yes, because we are going to be talking about the latest in home furnishings. Also, a down-to-earth tip was going to shed a little light on energy savings for our house, and also some terrific music from a young violinist. Wait until you see her.
Yeah.
Her name is Midori, right?
Right.
She is just really incredible. 19 years old?
She has drawn raves. She's about to be 19. She has drawn raves in concert ever since the age of 10 that she's been playing, and she is just marvelous. And I have a little something for you here. Back in May,
yes,
we had a fella on who, Harmon Seville, his name was, who was developing a new strain of roses called the Good Morning America Rose, and they have just won the Award of Excellence from the American Rose Society. So I got a little pin for you.
So our rose won the prize, huh?
Yeah. Not bad,
That's neat. Yeah, it's neat.
I'll put one in my lapel, and we'll advertise the fact that we've won the award. At least our rose did. And since a rose is a rose is a rose, we'll go to Judd Rose in the newsroom, who is standing by also with one in his lapel. And the lead story of the morning is, I don't have it in front of me, but Judd, you'll give it to me.
You have it.
It's the budget, and we're blooming with news about the budget. It took the Senate until early morning to pass a plan to cut the deficit, but approve a plan it did. And later today, a conference committee will try to make sense out of the very different versions passed by the Senate and House. We go live now to Capitol Hill and ABC's Sheila Cast. There's some starkly different versions between the House and Senate. How are they going to work out those differences, Sheila?
Well, Judd, as it has been all summer, the big fight is over income tax rates. During two very long, intense days of debate, the Senate lined itself up with George Bush's original position, no increase in income tax rates. Some Senate Democrats would like to raise the top income tax rate, but they don't really have the votes to do it. And so the top rate of 33% that the House has in its plan may well become a bargaining chip. They may stop pushing for that and push instead for a 10% surtax on incomes above $1 million. The House might also well sign on to the Senate's version of how to make the wealthy pay more in taxes, and that's limits on the itemized deductions that wealthy taxpayers can write off on their income tax. The most politically vulnerable part of the House plan is its proposal to delay the inflation adjustment for tax brackets and exemptions. President Bush says that hits the middle class, so the House may back off from that. But if they do, in order to get the revenue they need, they'd have to agree to some sort of gasoline tax increase. Maybe not the full 9.5 cent a gallon increase that's in the Senate plan, maybe 5 or 6 cents. That seems to be the way it may work out, Judd.
Sounds like they have a lot of decisions to make in what is still a very little time.
It is a lot of decisions, but remember, they've been working on these all summer, and the votes that each House took earlier this week, sort of like test votes, they give the negotiators some sense of what single package might actually pass both houses. Actually, the negotiators probably have a better idea of that right now than they do where President Bush stands on each of these items.
Thanks a lot, Sheila. Elsewhere in Capitol Hill, Secretary of State Baker's come under fire over how the U.S. helped the UN to condemn Israel for the killings of 21 Arabs in Jerusalem last week. During a hearing of the House Foreign Affairs Committee yesterday, Baker rejected one complaint that it was shameful how the U.S. sponsored the UN resolution.
We think that the killing of 21 people and the wounding of 150 others through the use of live fire simply was not excusable.
Why did we condemn Israel for this action when Iraq gassed the Kurds in their country, and there was no resolution at the UN to condemn Iraq that I recall?
Well, as it happens, the United States is pushing another resolution at the UN, this one against Iraq. It calls on Saddam Hussein to release all foreigners being detained in Iraq and occupied Kuwait. And it asks Iraq to allow food to be shipped in to Western embassies in Kuwait City. In addition, the resolution demands that Iraq pay for any damage or destruction in Kuwait. In the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev finally, formally presented his economic reforms to the Soviet parliament. The compromise plan's been under fire from radicals who say it doesn't go far enough, fast enough. But in his speech this morning, President Gorbachev said the effects of the plan should be felt within a year and a half, and he said the 15 Soviet republics could implement it at their own pace. In other news, they're cleaning up parts of the east after strong thunderstorms. In Baltimore, high winds, maybe some tornadoes, injured 50 people. Trees and power lines went down too. Even the U.S. Capitol didn't escape damage. Rainwater leaked through the dome. They had to race around to cover some of the statues to make sure they didn't get wet. A record price has been paid for a photograph. At an auction in New York last night, the photograph titled Rayograph, that's it, went for $126,500. It's the work of the artist Man Ray, and dates from the 1920s, and whoever bought the photo decided to keep his or her identity a secret. Finally, the trial of George Washington. Yes, that George Washington, unless you know another one. The charge against him was 200 years old. The verdict in London was better late than never. We get more now from ABC's Barry Dunsmore.
George Washington came to London to clear his name. He was charged with high treason against the British Crown, a crime punishable by death.
George Washington, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
To the charge, not guilty.
His defenders, a group of American trial lawyers, claimed Washington had acted in that most basic of motives.
Your Honor, this defendant is guilty of no crime, but defending himself and his nation.
Benjamin Franklin took the stand to explain how reluctant the colonies had been to go to war, and Thomas Jefferson explained the role English common law had played in the Declaration of Independence. The prosecution was unimpressed with the argument against taxation without representation.
My Lord, they complain of taxes. Everyone complains of taxes.
Finally, Washington explained his reasons for taking up arms against the sovereign.
I believe, sir, that I have striven to protect the rights of English Americans.
The three judges, 2 British and 1 American, agreed that treason had been committed, but they found the defendant not guilty on grounds of self-defense. Barry Dunsmore, ABC News, London.
George Washington. Charlie, is nothing sacred anymore?
Thanks, Judd. I suspect he's resting a little easier today. Actually, I was sort of interested in that expression. He looked a little surprised by the verdict, if anything. Thank you, Judd. And you may recall that it was just yesterday we were talking to Kentridge for the prosecution and Caulfield for the defense, 2 of the lawyers that were involved in that trial of George Washington yesterday over in London. It is now 7 minutes past the hour. Spencer Christian is in High Point, North Carolina, has the national weather forecast this morning. Spencer?
Okay, Charlie, welcome to our dining room. Joining me for a little tag team weather is Frank Deal, the meteorologist at our affiliate here, WGHP.
Such a pleasure to welcome you here, Spencer.
Thank you, Frank.
Great event here for us, and great to have you here with us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, thanks for sharing the spotlight with me for a moment or two.
I feel like a little bit like a bull in a china shop here, you know. Don't dare turn around and break something.
Literally. Well, I've been known to hand him a little bull anyhow, so I guess it fits. Let's take a look at the maps and see what's going on today.
All right.
By way of satellite, we bring you a picture of that cold front that whipped through the east yesterday. It's offshore now. They'll be clearing behind that front. Another big storm, as you can see, forming in the Rockies. That's a big cloud mass out there. As for the outlook, Frank, I guess things are looking pretty good in the east today.
It looks spectacular. There's an old saying about October, appropriate, I think, for today, too, the 19th, and that is that October has 19 fine days, and I think we're developing one of those gorgeously here in the southeast, blustery with wraparound clouds in the northeast around that low pressure that whipped that front through you mentioned yesterday, and chilly still, coolest air of the season in the Midwest. High pressures treating the west coast very nicely today, and expectedly warm and toasty in the southwest. All that snow you mentioned in Colorado mountains too, and again in the southeast, just spectacular it's going to be today.
All right, and as the weekend progresses, we'll keep an eye on that storm out west for you. That's a look at the national weather picture, and here's a look at the weather where you are.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Tony Petrarca. Storm system moving off the coastline, but the wind and cool temperatures with us. For today, a mixture of clouds, some occasional sunshine, windy and cool, only near 60. And for tonight, windy and cold, low temperatures in the 30s.
Well, Frank, you know, I'm a native southerner myself. I'm from Virginia, which is just north of here, and I expected some milder weather when I came down here, but it's chilly outside.
I'm from the south, too, Mississippi. As Senator Claghorn used to say, if I was any further south, I'd be treading water. But I am from, this is chilly. This is in the low 40s this morning, so sunny south, well, it is a sunny south, but it's a chilly south, too, today.
Sunny and chilly, but they brought us inside, so at least we got to warm up in here.
Good place to be for any meteorologist.
Absolutely. I guess we should mention one more time, this is the International Home Furnishings Market here in High Point.
Twice a year, spring and autumn, and with the nip in the air, this must be the fall market here. It's a premier, one of the premier business events in the entire country. That's why we're so happy to have you here. And the Good Morning America crew. By the way, I've got to say it. Good Morning America.
All right.
I've longed to say that for so long. May we extend some of our gorgeous Carolina blue skies to you.
And you heard it from Frank Deal, and I'm his brother, Raw. That's a look at the weather for now. I'll have more in the next half hour. Charlie?
All right, thank you. And Crooked Deal will be along a little later. It's 10 minutes after the hour. Joel Siegel is here with us now. He's not a Crooked Deal. To tell us about a new movie with a winning combination. It is Tom Selleck, horses, and great scenery. So we can ask Joel how Quigley Down Under went over with him.
Actually, pretty well. Tom Selleck's been wanting to make
A Western for years, I can understand why he gets to play a cowboy for real. Well, almost for real, but it's got to be tough for an actor to say no to a Western. It's tough for this critic to say no to a Western. I'm awfully partial to him. I like the big sky scenery, the stunts and the shoot-'em-ups that take me back to the 10 cartoons for a quarter Saturday matinees when I was a kid. But most of all, I like the Western ethic. You saw it in Shane and High Noon. One man standing alone for truth, justice, and, well, in this case, the Australian way. So maybe instead of a Western, we should call this a Southern.
You intrigued me, Mr. Quigley. My advertisement simply stated that I wanted to hire the finest long-distance marksman in the world. Have I?
Tom Selleck plays a Wyoming cowboy who's paid 50 pounds in gold just for traveling to the Australian outback to meet sheep rancher Alan Rickman. And yes, he is the best long-distance shot in the world, but he must never go to the movies, otherwise he'd recognize Rickman as the villain in Die Hard, the villain in Dangerous Liaisons. He'd know this guy is up to no good. Rickman's men end up dragging Selleck and Laura San Giacomo 2 days into nowhere after Selleck says no when he finds out what he was hired to hunt. Aborigines, Australian natives who've been poaching Rickman's sheep and who nurse Selleck and San Giacomo back to health in their own way.
I don't eat things that are still moving.
You gonna shoot it first?
Snap, crackle, and squirm. And yes, there's big sky scenery and John Ford rock formations and Magnificent Seven music, and Selleck is awfully good in his Tom Mix hat and his Buffalo Bill goatee doing Clint Eastwood stunts. Sure, it's derivative. Westerns have to be. But scenes like this, men with faces old as time, exposing us to a different culture, make Quigley more than just a Western gone south.
Swing rope and throw right at it.
That's wonderful. He's just shown them if they braid the kangaroo skin, that's what that was, the rope will be stronger. There's one scene his men tell Rickman they've got 6 men out on a hunting party. Cut and you realize they're hunting people. They herd them to the edge of a cliff and forced them off. I was moved to tears, something you really don't expect in a Tom Selleck Western. And it's not in the ads, it's not in the coming attractions, not in the commercials. Hollywood executives keep on making decisions like that. I know my job is safe. Too violent for young kids. It's an old-fashioned, pass-the-popcorn Western, but with the difference. There's something more that keeps Quigley Down Under up top. Recommended.
Interesting you mentioned that you wouldn't be able to tell the character of this movie from the commercials, from the ads in the newspapers. You were saying yesterday this is a Western with a point.
That's right.
You certainly don't see that in the commercials.
No.
It looks like sort of a funny, you know, eating worms.
Yeah, exactly. Try to make it into a kind of comic Western, old-fashioned Western.
Why do they do that? If they've got a point, a moral, it's a good story, why
I don't know. It seems to me they're trying to sell it as an old-fashioned Western, but nobody goes to old-fashioned Westerns. Silverado, which was a dynamite Western, really didn't do much business. And Westerns need a point of difference. This one has one. It's done in Australia, and the scenes with the Aborigines are really beautiful and touching and moving. That's why there are critics, Charlie.
Well, no, but we're now turning into critics of commercials and ads, and it seems to me that they try to sell the movie in some way that they think is commercial.
Well, the best example of a Hollywood marketing decision that went completely wrong was the movie Diner. They figured, hey, this is a great drive-in movie. This is a movie for teenagers in Arizona and Texas to relive their days as kids. And they released it only at drive-ins. And it was the New York critics who said, wait a minute, this is a terrific movie. We've got to do something, figure out a way to get people to go see it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Joel. It is now 14 minutes after the hour. We'll be talking about eating your vegetables with Linda McCartney. She'll explain, I guess, when Good Morning America continues.
I know that song.
A young star that shines very brightly in the world of music, Midori, in our next half hour.
She's not the kind of person people think she is. That's the way rock superstar Paul McCartney described our next guest. And he ought to know he's married to her. Linda McCartney is the mother of Paul's 3 children. She's a photographer, she's a musician, she's a vegetarian turned cookbook author. Linda McCartney's home cooking is full of her own vegetarian recipes, some of which she has brought with her here today. It's nice to have you with us. When did the whole vegetarian thing start? How long ago did you switch over?
For me, it was about 20 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
And why and how so?
Well, I was always an animal lover, like you, a horse mad. And I liked eating meat as well. I never associated that a rib or a breast or a thigh was an animal's body. So I ate meat happily. And then we were on our farm in Scotland, eating leg of lamb. We looked out the window at our baby sheep, and we associated...
Didn't like the connection.
No, and we thought, that's it. And the same thing with chicken. We were behind a big truck of lots of little lovely chickens, and it turned into a chicken processing plant. And we thought, like that, they're going to be killed. So
it's not just not eating meat, it's not eating poultry, and not eating fish, too, because some vegetarians still eat fish.
Well, they're not vegetarians.
They're not completely vegetarian. So what are the parameters, then? Because you have to then put back into your diet, of course, a lot of protein.
Well, the thing is, the reason I don't eat fish is because they have feelings, too. You know, I don't eat anything with a face or a heart.
Now, as I understand it, I think I read this in the paper, that backstage, even on your concert tours, you have all vegetarian food. How does it go over with all the crew?
Well, it took me a long time to find a cook who knew what I was talking about, because all I'm saying is, instead of eating flesh, you get something called textured vegetable protein, which has more protein. I mean, it's what the animal you're eating ate before you ate him.
Yeah, that's hard to find in this country, but there are all kinds of things. There's soy products. There are a number of different things you can use in these products. And how about the kids? Are the whole family vegetarian?
Yeah.
Is it hard on them not being able to do hot dogs or fish and chips and stuff?
No, because you get vegetarian hot dogs, which, I mean, a hot dog is, what is it, feet, and I won't tell you what's in a hot dog, but they taste the same without meat, you know.
I've heard that list before.
Yes.
Interesting things here. This is a beet soup, right?
Borscht, they call it. And I don't use meat stock. I use vegetable stock.
Vegetable stock. And can I just dip in here, and then you can tell us, what are we looking at back there? What's in the tomatoes?
There, I just cottage cheese and basil and chives. And it's all very simple cooking.
Beet soup's good, by the way. And this is, let's see if I can say it.
That's the one.
Beef bourguignon?
Well, beefless bourguignon.
Beefless bourguignon in this case. And this, interestingly, is called Heather's lemon pudding cake. Heather's your oldest daughter, right?
Yes.
And how old is she now?
27.
Did she make this recipe herself, or is this something you always made for her?
She made it up.
Aha. All right. You have, what, 4 children, 3 of them with Paul. How old are they? They range from 13 to...
27.
13 to 27. All right. We've got to taste Heather's little invention here. This is the best part of the show, you know.
Yeah, I was going to say, eating.
That's delicious.
You should have tried that first, because that's the essence. Yeah, and it tasted, and it chews like meat, and you wouldn't know the difference.
All right, I like something else about this book, because she says in the introduction that we should get our husbands involved in cooking. In fact, you say that we should arrange it so that they, once a day, or at least once a week, should have the husband totally responsible, solely responsible. Does Paul cook?
He loves to cook. I find a lot of men love to cook. It's a creative outlet. And touching food, and I find it fun for men. They love it. Sort of like art.
Get the whole family into it, too.
Yeah, I think we should get more family-orientated anyway.
How is it for your children growing up with such famous parents?
I think all right. We're very loving parents, and you live in the country, we live in the country. I'm not involved with celebrities or living a very showy life. I have a sort of basic attitude anyway.
Well, you guys have made it that way for yourselves, I think. That's the kind of life you wanted for your family, right?
Absolutely.
I said in the introduction that I quoted Paul as saying you're one of the most misunderstood people. What do you think's the biggest misconception that people have about you?
Well, I think when I married Paul, they said I was cold and pushy. And the thing is, I'm a very, very warm person.
You think maybe that's because you stole away the guy that everybody loved?
Actually, I think it's because I look a bit that way. Really, I think I look a bit cold, but I'm not. I'm very warm. I mean, I love animals, and I don't eat them, so that's warm, isn't it?
And I got to see you guys when you were performing here on the tour. Are you going to do another tour?
Yeah.
Yeah, next year?
Yeah, I think make another album and get out there again. It was good fun.
I remember the first time that you went up on stage. I remember all the articles. And some unkind things. I think people were they felt like you pushed your way in there. You think that's part of this whole syndrome, though?
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't want to do it. It was Paul pushed me in there. I'll gladly stay at home and ride my horse. And
you seem like the shy type to me. So
I am. Basically.
Still today, I'll bet, right?
Absolutely. I haven't changed a bit.
Is it tough to go out there on stage still today?
I think less than it used to be, because once you know what you're playing, and we have a good band, and it was fun, and the audiences were fantastic.
Well, you had another band, though. I mean, besides playing with Paul and the Stripes, what was it?
Oh, Susie and the Red Stripes.
Yeah.
But again, I thought, I'm doing my vegetarian stuff. I have a lot of animals. I have the kids. I have photography. I just really didn't want to get out there and you know, be a pop star up front. You know, I'm in the band, and that's all right, but
I'll go out there, but leave me on the back row.
Exactly. You go out there and do all that, and I'll sit here and go, be very quiet.
Well, listen, it was enjoyable reading the book. Nice to be able to meet you.
Good. Nice meeting you.
Thank you, Linda. We'll be back in just a moment. Good Morning America continues.
And in our next half hour, the latest in home furnishings.